technology that needs to be replaced. So there's some fluidity in terms of the depreciation schedule as well.
That's good.
On the technology side, as you also looked into software, specifically Exchange Server is the backbone for all of the information system in the city. We're now operating on 2003 version. 2007, of course, was out actually in 2008, but 2010 is now out, which means that Microsoft will no longer support 2003. Same thing is true of Word, Excel, all of the Office software. So I'm just hoping that we look at software as well as hardware.
They have a way of not supporting things after a while.
Well, that's pretty much corporate policy at Microsoft. Once they get the second one out, then they no longer support it.
Dave actually made that whole issue of creating those funds sound pretty simple.
It's very complicated.
It's unbelievably complicated.
Yeah, Jen's probably kicking me. No, she's not. She's kicking me. It's not that. But it's very complex, and it's a function of many different things, and that's why it's taking us some time to be able to really do that in a robust way, so that we have a good program. But we're getting started with it at least, moving into 2011 is what we're proposing.
I have a question for you about that. Have we been putting off buying some of these or replacing some of these assets long enough that we've got a bubble to get over before this is a stable fund where it's pretty much even?
That's your assessment.
All right.
Okay, moving on to more detail in terms of the estimates.
And again, as we've been saying all along, these are estimates and they're fluid and they will continue to change. We just want to bring them up to speed. Slide 22, we've already talked about quite a bit. The numbers that we got Friday, the $90,000 lower amount is actually up to $140,000 lower. And that's due to the estimated assessed value decline of being more along the lines of 13% versus 10. But we'll get a firmer number by the end of the year. But these are their best estimates. That's where that's going to come in at this time. So we have to factor that in. So that number will change as well. And then the EMS levy that was just passed, also that number for increased revenue increases down to 5,000, not 25, based on the lower assessed values. And then the next slide is projections that Paul provided us with the increases in sales tax and utility taxes. The PUD raised rates 5.7%, I believe, effective August 1st. So there's an increase there. And then we're estimating decreases in natural gas rates. And then, of course, we're assuming a rate increase in water sewer rates of 14.5%, and that's based on FCS group's estimates that we needed to do to sustain the water sewer program. And again, we're not going to go into a lot of detail on those rates tonight, just because we have an entire workshop dedicated to the FCS group presentation on those projections on the 11th, I believe, of October. So we're just keeping those at what they were based on the prior estimates. This slide again talks about fines and fees being estimated 100,000 higher due to increased traffic enforcement, and that's directly related to citizen concerns in that area and the funded police officer position that we hope to fill to have more enforcement out on the roads to create safety for our citizens. And then on the other side of that, building-related fees are lower. We're being very conservative in this area because we don't know what construction is going to do. There have been positive increases in the number of permits, but you never know where that's going to go in the future. So we're keeping it very conservative in that realm. So here is the actual budget estimates this was prior to getting the information Friday, so, the general property tax number is a little bit lower at 3.508 instead of 558. But we're being very conservative again, in where the projections are coming in. Again, based on current information. And so these could change, most likely will change slightly by the actual preliminary budget that comes out on the 25th. Questions or comments on the revenue side? This shows some of the staffing changes that we talked about already. Trying to relieve some of the burden on the general fund. We moved some folks over into the water sewer, stormwater side of the city. Those positions were vacant and already budgeted. That's why you don't see an increase in the staffing levels of water sewer or stormwater. So we basically took some folks out of an area that was general fund supported and moved them into the utility side of the house to increase the services in that area, and then lower the burden on the general fund. The police position was also budgeted, so that's why there's no change there. It's just been unfilled. So that brings us to expenditures. Slide 27. These are what the department heads have brought forward for their requests, preliminary requests for budget. As we mentioned, it is lower than the 2010 estimates. We have made, it's about 400,000, well, 360,000 lower than the 2010 estimates, which is due to the hard work of all the budget, our department heads, really looking at those budgets, making them lean. We have cut out contingency, so if something unexpected is to happens, like the radon issue this year, that would have to be brought forward and paid for out of reserves. We're not presenting any fluff or contingency within these budgets. They are very bare bones. This is what we need to operate. I'll probably defer a little bit on this slide if necessary, but this is just projecting out what the deficit is expected to be in the future, based on revenue estimates. Excuse me. Lost track of the word. As you may remember from the July 31 meeting, those projected deficits were significantly higher, and that's due to the budget cutting that's been ongoing. Staff has worked really hard at bringing those numbers down. We still have work to do, but definitely a much, I don't know if a brighter picture is the right word, but we're not seeing $1 million deficits in the future.
It's impressive what you've done. I'm very impressed.
And we recognize there's still work to do. We have working with the labor group and whatnot, trying to make those numbers even smaller. But again, it does show a lot of work that's been done already.
Just a brief comment. The 2011 estimate, that's just shy of 250,000 in the preliminary estimates, based on what we heard at the end of last week and was explained